And we'll get started with my fancy self today. Welcome to the yoga studio, which I'm also sleeping in. I set up a timer. Okay. So if you are new to the yin, this is going to be a real laid back month. Lots of just kind of snuggling with yourself. You're going to need lots of props. So have just things for support close by, be it blocks, pillows, blankets, whatever you got. And it's just going to be a month of like kind of diving inward because we are headed towards spring. I feel like lots of people are like, spring is here. And I'm like, this is false spring. You know better. This happens every year. Don't get excited because one flower thought, because it's going to snow next week. So I like to use this time to kind of go inwards to kind of finish the hibernation portion of the season and get ourselves ready to actually move into spring and birth a bunch of new ideas and new movement and new energy. So it's nice to kind of go inwards before we do that. So that's what we're doing our yin practice. We're going to get into all of the little nooks and crannies of our bodies. This can be uncomfortable. That is fine. We don't want any sharp or electric pain though. So if it's feeling really sharp or electric, back away from that. You might sometimes get some tingles. I get tingles, especially working around in the hips, and that is up to you. Like I hang in there as much as feels appropriate for my body, and I can only guide you to do the same. So it's all kind of your level of comfort, but being uncomfortable in yin practice is pretty common because we are going to be in these poses for a while, and your brain is also going to jump in and be like, hey, hey, we've been here a while. Is the computer frozen? Is this not working? I promise you it is working. And yeah, we're going to be 3 to 5 minutes. I've got my little alarm clock so that you know that I am not falling asleep, essentially. So my sacrum is upset. So we're going to do some sacrum stuff today. I've been carting around a baby. So we're going to start with some hip openers, but first we are just going to get connected to self. So a couple deep breaths, slowing your breath down, making it more intentional. I'm just thinking of your exhale. Every exhale is shedding something you've been hanging on to from the day, something you've been hanging on to for the winter, something you've been hanging on to for your lifetime. Just shedding, letting things go, letting go of a compulsive thought that is spinning. And the breath is going to be an important part of the practice this month. Because where our attention goes, energy flows. We want to be focusing on our breath, that cycle of death and rebirth, release and receival. And also, we want to focus on the breath because when we are in discomfort of any sort, we have a tendency to not breathe. So, if we make our breath kind of the mainstay of our practice, then ideally, hopefully, we will keep breathing through the whole practice. And I will kind of continuously prompt you back into that. And if you'd like to set an intention for your practice, you can go ahead and do that. There's something you know you'd like to release, and you can set that up there on your intentional altar. Let's get ourselves starting to move a bit. Wherever you're sitting, just go ahead and start to rotate your rib cage around. And I don't want you to think of yourself like a tornado. Okay, so we're not coming from the base of our pelvis. We're actually coming more from our rib cage. So it's as if you're trying to press your ribs up against a tube that you're sitting inside of. And you're just trying to roll your ribs around that tube. So we'll move throughout this practice through some very soft opening movements and then long held poses. Go ahead and switch directions. Coming back to center. We are going to grab a couple blocks or like 4 inches, 10 centimeters worth of books. And you are going to take one of those lifted objects and under 1 foot, and your toes are lined up. Okay, so my feet are right under my hip bones, and my toes are lined up as if I was just standing normal. The other one is going to come out in front of you or have a chair there or something in case you need it. You might not. But we've got this one leg bent, okay, and already my hips kind of popped up, and that's good. That's where we want it. And we're just going to fold forward. And that knee is going to stay bent as we come forward. And once we're kind of as comfy as we can get, we're going to push into that standing foot, keep the other leg on the heel on the floor, and start to straighten out that bent knee. So if you're looking at me now, you can see that one hip is lifted up. That's what we're going for. And this should be pretty intense through the hamstring, through the glute, all the way up into the low back. Just notice if your pelvis is dropping back, so you're leaning back into your heels, and try to shift your weight forward. And you might not be able to get that bent knee completely not bent, and that's fine. Just take it as far as you can. You might need to add height in order to get it to straighten out. Just do whatever feels right in your body. And allow the upper body to be as relaxed as possible. And sometimes that means bringing the floor up to you, essentially, so that you can really feel supported enough to drop the head and let the spine flop forward. Coming back to your breath. And just keep noticing where you're hanging on, like what muscles are kind of gripping, and see if you can find a softness. Halfway there. About 50 more seconds. If it feels like you can go a little bit deeper, but you're not ready to commit to being there a long time, now would be the time to take yourself to that edge. You only got 25 seconds left. You're going to bend both knees and then ragdoll your way up. Step that block into the middle and just stand for a second. Usually there's like a little flush of energy that goes down the leg that you were just opening. And a sense of relief. And switch sides. So bring the block under the opposite foot. Line your toes up. That knee bent. And you're just going to roll yourself down. Finding your appropriate level of support with your blocks or books, whatever you got. Making sure your weight isn't too far back or too far forward. Coming back to your breath. And keep checking in. Do you need to lengthen that leg more or less? You want to make sure that you're comfortably uncomfortable. And there's usually a tendency to want to lift the standing leg's heel up. So try to avoid that. And we're really pushing through that bent leg, trying to get it as straight as possible and trying to get the upper body as relaxed as possible. We are more than halfway there.
And I like to use the breath sometime as massaging fingers. So as I inhale, I focus the widening, the expansiveness of the breath into wherever I'm feeling the most tension. So for me, it's in my left low back. So as I breathe, I just think about that breath going in and kind of like massaging thumbs, just pulling that tissue apart, opening it up, creating more space. And if you'd like to take yourself a little further towards the edge, go ahead and do that. Got less than 30 seconds left. Really pushing the body. You're going to bend both knees and roll yourself up again. Move the block out from under the foot. Take a second. Just standing. Good. And then we're going to come down. We're going to come into a lunge. And I'd like you to keep your blocks handy or your forward support handy. If you need to pad your back knee, you're going to pad the back knee. If you've got like a real tender front of the ankle, so if you don't have that like smooth extension through there and you're kind of in more of a flexed state, you might want to put a pillow at the ankle. And we are going to come into a lunge. Pick whichever leg you'd like. And you want to have your foot under your knee and be dropping forward as far as you can. And then finding the place that works for you. So that might be upright, and you might even walk the blocks right back next to your hips and really lift up and out of the pelvis. And that is going to really open through the abdominal wall, through the quad, hip flexor. Now, if you need to get deeper down towards the knee, you start your timer so that we're not here forever. If you need to get deeper down towards the knee, you might need to come forward, you might need to come down. So kind of play with it, especially if you're new to a yin practice and you're like, I don't really know where my body needs me to be, where I get the most sensation. Go ahead and play with it. And I will move sometimes in the middle of the pose and I'm like, okay, I feel like I've got enough of this upright stuff. I need to drop down and feel this in a different way. But wherever you are, you want to think about relaxing your shoulders because they will want to creep up towards your ears, softening your jaw, relaxing your tongue, keeping your breath nice and paced. And back bends are always intense. They're intense for many reasons. They're usually relatively more challenging to hold for a long period of time. But anytime we move into a back bend, we are challenging our kidney and adrenal meridian. And the emotion that is produced from an unbalanced state of kidneys and adrenals is a likeliness towards fear. So it makes sense kind of that idea of bending backwards, going back into the unknown, fear. So a lot of times you will notice in these poses that emotions come up, sensations come up, nausea, headache, things like that. And just know that you are moving stuff through your body. So don't be attached to what's happening. Just watch it, be aware of it. It is momentary. But yin yoga is considered needleless acupuncture because it does work so closely with the meridians in the body. So it is natural to have all of the side effects that you might have in an acupuncture session. So feeling energy moving, emotions, sensations. And the more you use your breath, the more you're going to be able to move those things through your body as they come up. Okay, so for this, we're just going to back up a little bit. We're going to head towards pigeon. We're going to stay on the same side that you're on. So you're just going to walk that foot across the body, come down onto the side of the shin. And then I like to slide my pelvis back as far as it will go. Okay. Same thing that we just had in that lunge where you can support yourself and stay up high the whole time, which is sometimes really nice because we rarely do this in pigeon. It's always like, I feel like yoga teachers use it as a resting pose. But you can be really quite profound with it if you stay upright. So finding your height there. If this is just not an option, something's going on in the pelvis or in the knees, then the other option is to roll around onto your back and make a figure 4 and come into it this way. So 2 options. Let's get your timer going. You can also take a block or a pillow blanket and under the forward legs hip for a little extra support there. Always coming back to your breath and then noticing where you're holding unnecessary tension and where you're holding tension that you can use the breath to disperse. I always say that there's 3 tenets to a yin practice. It's be kind, be patient, and be still. And usually it's in these hip openers where you understand the one about being still because that ache gets going and you like, I want to move. I want to fidget. About a minute left here. So don't go anywhere. We're just going to move through this pose and into another. So you're going to roll towards that front leg's hip and then swing the other one around and try to stack the knees on top of each other. Okay, I'm going to rotate so y'all can see what kind of knot I'm tying myself in here. Now you might need to put some weight or some height under your hip. Other option, if you were on your back. Okay, so if you're here on your back, you can just slide that knee over and you're going to grab hold of your shins and pull the knees to your chest. So that's second option. But if you're in that first option, you tying yourself up, maybe putting some height under your hips. And then just praying for these 3 minutes to be over, if you're me. Ugh. If you've got super open hips and this is a piece of cake for you, good on you. You'll start to fold forward. But I would suggest that if in order to be relatively comfortable, you have to put something under your hips, that you not lean forward. It makes it much easier with something under your hips to lean forward, but you're just not going to get the same stretch. Once you get yourself situated, drop the shoulders, open up the chest, soft belly. So you really allow the breath to fill down into the abdomen, into the low back. So even though we are externally rotating our thigh bones here, the action of bringing it in towards the midline is spreading open the sacrum. It's kind of a internal rotation action in an external rotation manner. We were just in pigeon, we were in that full external rotation, and now we've tied it tighter and coming into an action like internal rotation, but essentially working similar areas in the glutes. Softening your jaw, relaxing your tongue. And just seeing how subtle you can make your breath. So really long, slow inhales and exhales. If you can kind of play with it to the point that if somebody was just looking at you, they wouldn't be able to tell if you were breathing because it's so slow. And this type of breath will calm the central nervous system. And it is a breath that shows up almost always when I'm doing cranial sacral on people, as they drop into what we call long tide, which is the deepest of the 3 levels of primal breath. To come out of this, you're just gonna slide that top leg off and lean over and extend that bottom leg out. Oh. And let's just take a moment, take about a minute actually, in a forward fold. So feet hip width apart. You might want to prop up your hips again, maybe even putting something under the knees so that they're softly bent. And then just as if you have fallen asleep, dropping over top of your thighs. The head is heavy. The head is kind of like a weight here. We're not active in this forward fold. We're not trying to pull our head towards our feet. We're just allowing the weight of the head and the shoulders to drop us down into this forward fold. Use your hands to kind of walk yourself back up. And we're going to make our way back into that high lunge on the other side. So our bodies are not symmetrical. So you may very well find that this side is completely different. You might need support in different places. So again, areas of support would be under the ankle, under the knee, blocks under the hands, or under the forearms, wherever you end up putting your hands. We've got the foot under the knee. We're dropping our pelvis down and forward towards our front heel. And then finding the appropriate location for our upper body, whether it be upright or folded forward. But wherever you are, one, breathing. Two, eliminating tension. So jaw, forehead, tongue, shoulders, holding the breath. You want to create more calm, more oxygen in the blood. More space. So last month we worked a lot on creating space through the upper chest and upper back, kind of bringing those ideas into this as well. We want a nice long neck. We want open collarbones. We want open shoulder blades. But because these are long held poses where we're not actively moving, we can allow everything I asked you not to do last month. We can't allow that belly and low back to just completely release and soften. But we do need to use all the principles that we learned last month to engage those abdominals as we move from pose to pose often. See if you can find that slow breath. Just about 25 seconds left here. And then we are moving into pigeon. So either sliding that foot across the body to come down onto the outer edge of the leg, or rolling onto your back for that figure 4. Propping yourself up wherever you need to. Making sure you're in a place that feels like you can tolerate 3 minutes. And then deciding if you're going to sleep in this pigeon or be a waking pigeon. What level of awakeness you would like to be at. Take a couple long sighing exhales. Maybe even putting a little bit of vocal sound into that if it feels appropriate. Just letting more stuff go. 'And again, recognizing the difference between the two sides of your body. Thirty more seconds. And if you're on your back, you're just going to cross that one leg over. If you're on your front, you're going to lean towards that forward knee, swing the opposite leg around, tying the knees up. I'll rotate so you can see me. Trying to get them on top of each other. This is easier if you've got something under your booty. And if you've got nothing under your booty and you need to go deeper, then you can start to fold forward. Otherwise, just working on sitting upright and not crying. Relax your jaw and your tongue. And there's often in this particular pose, because it is this like tying up, quite uncomfortable for most people. There is this upward energy. Like we're trying, I don't want to be in my hips. It hurts in there. So see if as you're breathing, you can just sink. Let your weight be heavy. Get down in your hips, get down into that discomfort. We're always running away from uncomfortable things. So let's get into them. Get down here, because the more time we are able to spend in uncomfortable places, the less uncomfortable they become. You're more than halfway there. Thirty seconds. Come out of this. You're gonna swing that top leg off. Ooh, and stay kind of leaning over to the side. And straighten both legs out into a forward fold. If you're on your back, hug your knees into your chest. And when you're ready, you can roll up and drop into this forward fold. We're going to be here about a minute. And then we've just got like one more pose after that. This is the nice thing about yin. While you're in the poses, it feels like the longest time ever. But it typically actually, as a chain of events, goes by relatively quickly. Just hanging out in this forward fold like a rag doll. And for the next 30 seconds or so here, I want you to find a little bit of a breathing movement. I'll turn sideways so you can see what the hell I'm talking about. So if you're just kind of slumped in this forward fold, as you inhale, I want you to think about creating more length through the torso. And then as you exhale, you melt down. So it's kind of a wave action. It's this kind of thing going on. And using the breath to really initiate all the movements. So there is a non-stop movement action happening. One more round of breath, and then the inhale after that will roll you up to seated. And we're going to come around on our bellies and finish in a back bend, a gentle back bend. So we're going to come into Sphinx. You might want to have your blocks handy. If you're like me and you are an in-betweener. So basic pose is Sphinx, elbows right under the shoulders, palms flat down. Rib cage kind of reaches towards your thumbs and then relaxes. Feet are hip width apart, just letting the legs either roll in or roll out. If you want to come into a deeper back bend, you just kind of straighten up the arms, widen them slightly, and then externally rotate the hands so the thumbs point straight forward. The in-betweeners, like myself, enjoy being halfway between the two. Maybe I should call it Goldilocks instead. So putting a little height under those elbows if you'd like to Goldilocks. And in this position, your shoulders are neither pressed down nor scrunched up. They're kind of in a happy medium space. Relax your jaw and allow your belly to be super soft so that as you inhale, there's so much space for those internal organs. And there's a little bit of a massage happening with the floor. Halfway there. Come out of this. You widen your elbows and slide your chest down onto the floor. And then, however feels good to you, you're going to roll yourself onto your back for Shavasana. Feel free to put something behind the knees. Feet are wider than the pelvis. Arms drop out to the side with your palms turned up. And just take a couple full body breaths. So as you inhale, feeling as if every cell in the body expands. And as you exhale, it surrenders. Taking a couple waking breaths. Bringing some soft movement into your body. You're going to slowly make your way onto your side. And then all the way up to seated. Coming back to your breath. If you set an intention, coming back to that intention. And just being aware of how you're feeling in your body right now. And it's normal to feel a little sleepy after Yin practice. It's a great practice for first thing in the morning and last thing in the day because it's transitional. It can either move you towards a more waking state or move you towards a more sleeping state. So, what you do from here is up to you. If you decide to take this kind of peaceful space and move it into your day, then it tends to bleed a little more peace and calm into the rest of your day. But it also energizes. So you can take it into the day or hang in the calmness of it for your evening. Go ahead and bring your hands together at your heart. Thank you all for showing up today. Namaste.